Hello and welcome to Make It Happen, episode number 39. So as you probably are aware, these interviews are with women who've made it happen in business or in life. And I'm going to talk next to a lady called Carrie Frais. She and her partner created Mum Abroad, which is a resource for women who, well, parents actually, no longer just women, who are living abroad. And we're going to talk to Carrie about that. And also a book that she co-authored called #Living the Dream. And we're going to talk about why sometimes living the dream is not as easy as you may think. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Ali. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So please introduce yourself to the listeners.
So my name is Carrie Frais. I am the founder and director of mumabroad.com, which is a resource for international families relocating and living in Europe. I'm also the founder and director of Fig Communications, which is a creative and communications agency, and the founder and director of forvoices.com, which is the platform to promote public speaking among teenagers.
Brilliant. I did say, as in the introduction, actually, you're a bit of a high achiever. I think
I'm not a high achiever, but I like to push myself out my comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, running all those businesses, that's pretty phenomenal. So tell us about your move to Spain. Was it something that you'd planned over a longer time?
Not at all. I was sitting next to a young chap at a friend's wedding, and I knew no one at this wedding. And I drove there thinking that I was going to leave early. And little did I know that few hours of my life was going to completely change my life. I had, in fact, latterly found out that I'd been strategically sat next to this man, now my husband. I'm already telling the end of the story. But we both found that we had this real passion for Spain. We both spent a year out in Madrid at separate times, studied Spanish at university. And I was working as a freelance radio and television reporter. He was a bit fed up with his job. So I said, let's go and live in Barcelona next year, jokingly. And within a year, we'd actually moved there. And within 3 years, we're married. And within sort of 6 or 7 years, we'd had a couple of kids. And we're still here 20 years later. So it was, sometimes when you don't think about things, things happen. I'm not saying that would be my advice to anyone, but in my case, it worked out.
I love that story. I've heard it a few times. I just love it. It's such a great story. So you've created a fantastic resource called Mum Abroad. I know that this started from a need that you specifically had, but tell us more about it.
Yes, it did. It started from when I found myself with a young baby in a new city, not really knowing anyone and not having any extended family around. And I was pretty desperate, to be honest. It's very challenging in any environment to be a new mother. But if you're living abroad and with a new child without parents and extended family, for me, it was particularly challenging. And I made a friend who was a marketing consultant. My background's journalism. And we decided to set up what was initially then called Barcelona Mum. And the idea was that we'd get recommendations from people we knew or people that people knew to find out where to go and what to do with young babies. And we were that clueless. So we got recommendations on everything from, where to breastfeed to where to have a nice family lunch, where to go and visit for the day. And then from that moment, it grew exponentially, pretty organically, and we changed the name to Mum Abroad as we extended across Catalonia and the rest of Spain. And then in the last 5 years, we also established ourselves in France, Italy, and Germany. So it's not now just about recommendations. That is the core of the site, but we also promote women in business. We have big categories for therapists and coaches and educational specialists and relocation as well. So it has grown as my family has grown up, that the site's grown up as well.
Yeah, no, it's such a fantastic resource for anybody, well, particularly parents thinking about moving to a new country, because it is very daunting and it's probably the last thing people think about when they move to a new country, isn't it? How they're going to find those different places to slot into.
Exactly, yeah.
So during your starting up Mum Abroad, were there any business roadblocks? And if so, how did you actually overcome them?
Yeah, and I think it probably is still our biggest business roadblock. I think the hardest thing when setting up a company is thinking about, your 5-year and your 10-year plan, because initially it was set up really as a resource to help myself and others in the same situation. And I hadn't initially thought about it as a business, but as it grew, I thought, what a great opportunity to do so. So it has grown as a business, and we generally get our revenue from content advertising and banner advertising, social media advertising, and things like that. And I think, you know, as far as roadblocks were concerned, was how we could, you know, spread this out and make more money. And I think in the end, I made the decision that I was pretty happy with the way things were going without having to, you know, probably lose control of what really was my baby. So that was the hardest decision, was decide to actually keep it quite a boutique company, company, rather than, I think I probably could have done is you know, pushed it so that it would have been, you know, that we had approaches from the Middle East, from Australia, from other European countries to grow it. And I just felt it would just be overwhelming. So I suppose to overcome it, I came to terms with this, that I was happy with the size of the business it was and the revenue it was making, and that I hadn't lost the sort of the core mission statement of what I wanted.
Yeah. I think there is that point in any business, isn't there, where you have to decide, do I want to grow this bigger, or am I happy with where it is now, and I can control it and keep my own mission statement, as you said, and keep my own values, and it doesn't, you know, get out of control. So
yeah,
I think
I'm never going to float on the stock market, but I've come to terms. That's okay.
So have you had a business role model, and if so, who are they and why?
Yeah, and weirdly enough, it's not someone that I think anyone would expect me to have, because it's a young male in his 20s. It's a guy called Steven Barlett. Have you come across him?
No.
Steven Barlett, he's a British entrepreneur, and he's actually, if anyone watches British television, there's a program called Dragon's Den, which is when 4 dragons choose whether to invest or not in an entrepreneurial venture. And he's the latest one, but I'd been following him for some time. And what I really like about him is that he kind of goes against the grain of the traditional trajectory of entrepreneurialism. He came from a very deprived background, but was obviously very smart, got a place at Manchester University, and he dropped out after the first lecture because he realized just university was not for him, and he wanted to make money. So his specialism was social media, and he set up a company called The Social Chain, I think, with someone else. And within years, it was valued at something ridiculous like $200 million. He opted out of it. He found that it wasn't, again, he sort of lost that sort of, you know, the core reasons for why he decided to set it up. And now he does lots of social enterprise. And, you know, he's in his 20s, he's made his money, he's spending his money philanthropically, and he's also on new ventures. He's a very accessible role model for both young people and, you know, people my age, older people. I just like the fact that he can cross generations, very likable. He's got this great podcast as well called Diary of a CEO, which I recommend anyone to listen to, because he gets the sort of, you know, the secrets out of all these chief executives and finds out what gives them the fire in their belly, what pushes them forward. He's just an immensely likable, personable chap.
I do love a good podcast, so I shall be checking one out. I listen to podcasts in my car when I'm driving, so I'll look forward to that one. Living the Dream, which was a book you published and co-authored. Are you?
Good question. It's actually hashtag Living the Dream, because the idea is that I wanted to sort of smash that shiny Instagram lens that a lot of people have, that us expats, for want of a better word, are living, because it's not the case. And it wasn't trying to say, oh, you know, my life is so hard. Far from it. You know, most of us living abroad choose to be out here. But I wrote this book during COVID, when we all sort of, you know, looked inwards and had this existential angst about who we were and where we belong. And I decided to write it with 8 other co-authors who'd all been through different challenges, whether it was grief or divorce or loss of identity, motherhood, setting up a business. And they're all different situations, but they all had the same sort of the same, you know, challenges that you know, that I'd suffered. My chapter was on grief and losing my parents, and it's something that I think is quite unique to people living abroad. This feeling of a lack of sense of belonging sometimes, an identity, of having a community, you know, that you've grown up with. You have to work very hard to create that. So, we have challenges every day, and we're fairly resilient, I think, expats, because we by coming abroad, it gives us a certain element of resilience. But when these major challenges come along, like grief or motherhood with no help around you, it can be really overwhelming, and people don't talk about it. So it was just to give a platform to myself and to these other women, just to explain what it's like. And also, what I hope, because we had analysis from expert expat therapist on our situations, was to give some help and advice to anyone thinking of moving abroad, because I don't think people think about the negatives. They just think about the sunshine. Of course, that's here. They think about all the other lovely lifestyle benefits of moving away from home. And so it was just a sort of reality check for people as well. And the feedback's been good. I think people have learned from it.
Yeah, no, it's a very good book, and you're absolutely right. People do tend to move abroad based on having gone there on holiday.
Yeah.
Based on holiday, and they're not really aware of the day-to-day, what it's like day-to-day living and running a business and raising a family and all the other normal stuff that you would do in your own country. And
yeah,
when we go back to our own country, we're not special, are we? We people don't really want to hear about what we're doing in our own country. They're not interested.
No, or I think there's sometimes an element of envy. I think I've worked out over the years that a lot of people do actually want to move abroad and haven't done it, and so I'd like to say I'd love them to ask me, and then I can tell them the warts and all story. Maybe they'd be put off. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just lying there with a cocktail with my feet in the sand.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. So what specific advice would you give to women thinking about moving overseas?
Well, just that really. I think, obviously research, read those real life stories, know what you're getting into. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about moving abroad, they read these sort of official guides, the relocation guides, which tell you how to get your, identity card and how to open a bank account and some of the, the legal issues, which is really, really important. But you, I think, have to think about yourself. You have to really think about, how will I be when, I don't have my parents, if they're still around, my siblings, my close friends, all the familiarity of my local village, town, or wherever you live, putting yourself in that position. And especially if you don't speak the language, I think that the people I've come across that struggle the most are the ones that can't communicate. Lovely, funny people who say, I feel like a different person because I'm trying to communicate, and everyone thinks I'm really boring because I can only string 5 sentences together. So yeah, learn the language before you go would be an absolute must, or at least learn enough where you feel you're comfortable and you can be yourself, because it's very isolating not being able to speak the language. And what happens, of course, when you don't, is you end up in a little bubble with people who speak your language, and you don't get to integrate, which in some cases people are happy with. But I think really, if you're going to move abroad, you should at least try to integrate and understand the culture that you're adopting, because it's not really, in my opinion, fair on the people who are living there to be able to sort of say, I love your culture, I love what you do, I love your language, and everything that comes with it. So that is probably my main advice. And also think about what you're going to do. Think about if your skills are transferable. Think about whether your qualifications are accepted in the country that you're going to. That's fairly easy to find out. Train in entrepreneurship or some kind of business studies if you can, because I think what happens is a lot of people go there thinking they're going to find a job in a company, and for whatever reason it doesn't happen, and they set up their own businesses. And it helps to know a little bit about the basic skills about how to do that. So that, I would say, is important, and just have a bit of money in the bank, because you never know when things go wrong.
Yeah, no, great advice there. So what next for Mum Abroad? Are you going to be writing any more books, or
People ask me about whether I'm going to write any more books. I mean, the great thing about COVID was you just had all this time, didn't you? And I a lot of people did stuff they'd never have done. If COVID hadn't happened, I think that was definitely the positive thing about the pandemic, is that we all found our creativity within. So I can't imagine finding a stretch of time at the moment to do another book, but I certainly would love to if I had that. I was thinking about writing one from the men's point of view, actually, because we know about women because women talk, and they do things like this, they do podcasts and interviews and things, and actually speaking to men, they're struggling sometimes as well, but they have to put on this front that everything's okay. They still feel, some men anyway, that they've got to be the breadwinner and look after the family, and which brings with it a lot of pressures. So that would be the next one, should I get round to it. Mum Abroad, this is the year of consolidation. So just getting on with things head down, because we've spent the last 2 years redesigning and rebranding the website, which is a lot of work. So you don't want to sort of move on to the next stage before you kind of let the dust settle. So we're going to do that, and just growing the categories that are in most demand, which is the coaches and therapists, the educational specialists, the relocation, which is all about sort of the admin surrounding a move abroad. So that's where we're going with Mum Abroad. Brilliant.
So talking about books, what book have you read this year which made a difference to your life, and why?
I read an absolutely brilliant book this year over the summer. It's called Every Family Has a Story, which is by a therapist called Julia Samuel, who is a grief and loss expert. And she was actually the therapist that helped William and Harry when Princess Diana died. And I've sort of followed her work for a while. And this book is fascinating because during COVID on Zoom, she got together different members of families, I think 8 families in total, to try and get them to communicate initially and talk about subjects that hadn't been talked about for years, you know, whether it was the loss of a family member, a separation, you know, family members feeling like they hadn't been put first for whatever reason. And you know, so she got these family members to talk to each other over Zoom, because she has this amazing ability to get sort of the conversation out of people. And it was so uplifting and powerful, because initially you're thinking, oh my goodness, you know, these people are never going to be able to understand each other. And, you know, generally at the end of each chapter, they found something in common. They were able to sort of apologize where they needed to, or, you know, show their vulnerability where they needed to. And it's just a, you know, really sort of heartwarming book to read, and beautifully written as well. So I highly recommend that.
Thank you for that recommendation. So you laughed really when I said that you're a high achiever. Do you have a superpower?
Yeah, I did send you this question in advance, I have to say, and I've never been asked, and I've never thought about this before. And, you know, I guess, you know, I can't say, oh, I haven't got any. And I think if someone had to say something about me that was positive, it's probably that I don't sweat the small stuff. And I really don't. And I look at other people who do, and I think, well, thank goodness I don't do that, because I can see how stressed they get over something that wouldn't stress me. But you can't, of course, you can't say to someone, oh, you know, that's nothing, because of course to them it is. But I'm quite happy that, you know, I've had a lot of big stuff that have been enough, thank you. So the small stuff sort of just goes over my head. So I would say if there was any superpower, it'd be that.
Good. Yeah. What's something that you're going to achieve before the end of 2022, or maybe a goal you've got for next year?
Well, I've already achieved what I wanted to in 2022, because this year I opened a co-working events and showroom in where I live in Maresme, which is just north of Barcelona. I found working at home during COVID really challenging. I'm not someone that likes to be on my own. I love my own company, but not all day, every day. So I missed the stimulation of having people around me. So I decided to open a small co-work for 10 people. And we're all doing our own thing. And sometimes we don't even speak to each other. We just acknowledge each other. And sometimes we collaborate and create things together. But just having people around and, you know, having that stimulus and the energy of other people around has been amazing. That's been transformative. So I've achieved that this year. And next year, I don't know, just put myself, I think my personal challenge always year on year is to put myself out of my comfort zone at least once during the year. I don't know what that's going to be next year, but I will find something.
We'll look forward to finding out what that is during the year. If you met the young Carrie, what would be your advice to her?
Yeah, I think now I have learned to walk away from toxic situations and toxic people. I have spent far too much time trying to fix things and fix people when I personally don't see that situation as meeting my values or whatever. And I've realized now that, well, okay, they may be, I say toxic, but, you know, to me, I mean, just people who I feel comfortable around. And that, you know, I recognize also that from their point of view, they see a different story. And if you can't communicate and you can't find common ground and you are unable to resolve it, the best thing now I realize is just to walk away. And, you know, you don't know where that path is going to bring you. I will now, if there's any advice to, you know, to my children, that's what I would say to them as well. Okay,
yeah, no, and I think as we get older, we're more aware of toxic people or situations that are not good for us, aren't we? Whereas when we're young, we can't always see them. So if the ladies or anybody listening to this podcast or watching the YouTube video wants to connect with you, which is the best place to find you?
Yeah, so the Mum Abroad website is really easy. It's mumabroad.com, or you can send me an email, carrie@mumabroad.com. I've also got a personal website, which is carriefrais.com, where you can find everything else that I do. I won't give you all the other website addresses, we'll be here forever, but that's probably the best way.
Yeah, so really interesting, Carrie. Thank you very much for your time today. And hopefully the ladies get in touch with you, and I'm sure they'll find lots of advice on the Mum Abroad website, because it is a really good resource. And do pick up a copy of Carrie's book, because it is really worth reading. I read it just after lockdown. It is really a book worth reading.
Thank you, Ali. I've really enjoyed our chat today.
If you enjoyed this session, please do subscribe on your favorite podcast channel, and also check out our YouTube channel too. We'd love to have you join us regularly and listen to the Make It Happen series. And if you haven't found us yet at costtowomen.com, please come over and join us. We'd love to see you there as well. Bye for now.